Zucchinis or courgettes are possibly one of the most prolific crops you can grow in the summer garden. So quick growing, so abundant and almost fuss-free. Hi, I'm Ben, and if your heart's desire is for perfect zucchini every time, you can do it. But you'll need to know a few tricks of the trade first. So watch on if you're looking to put the ZHUZH into your Zukes or the COOOR into your courgettes. Let's kick things off by showing you these zucchinis here. Now, I sowed these about 3 weeks ago and I wanted to show you them because they are the perfect size. They're still lush and green and they're not struggling at all for nutrients. They're the perfect size for planting out. If I tip one up, you can see that the roots are coming round the edge of the pot, but it's not chock-a-block just yet. The big problem with leaving zucchinis too long is that they get a bit yellowed and tired, they struggle, and then you're not planting a really thriving, vigorous plant. These guys are ready to plant and they're looking great. Now, I'll show you how to sow because it's worth covering. There's a lot of advice about sowing seeds on their side. And the reason for that is that the water is said to drain off the seed if it's edge on. I'll just show you what I mean by that. You can sow pretty much into any size pot, and I'm using all-purpose potting mix because the seeds are a big chunky size and can fend for themselves. So the idea is that you plant them edge on like that and plant them about an inch or 2 centimetres deep. You can plant 2 seeds per pot and then thin to leave the strongest, but these almost always germinate, so I'm just going to do 1 in each pot, and it's as straightforward as that. If you're sowing at the right time and the conditions are good, you could probably get away with sowing them flat, so don't labour that point, just sow them at the correct depth. Now, if you're unsure when your last frost date is, and these are tender plants so they need to go out after that date, you can use our garden planner. Just pop in your location and it'll use weather station data, your nearest one, to let you know when those dates are. These guys are a good size and it's pretty warm, there's no frost forecast, so I'm going to get on and plant them today. My zucchini are going to go in this bed here and also the one behind me. I've already improved the soil with lashings of well-rotted compost, but you really can't overdo it. I'm going to add a little bit more just to be on the safe side because I have plenty here. Zucchini are very, very hungry plants. They produce so much, they give such lush growth, and then of course those fruits. And all they ask for in return is a really rich soil to grow in. So it's worth getting this bit right. I'm also going to add, just for good measure, some chicken manure pellets. Just a few generous handfuls over the growing areas like that. There we go. Now, if you haven't prepped your soil in advance, it's really no problem. You can just dig out a planting pit. So dig out an area about 1 foot or 30 centimetres wide and deep, and then fill that with well-rotted compost or manure, and then return some of the soil on top and then plant into that. Zucchinis happily grow in pure compost. I've seen them growing in compost heaps and all sorts, so you really can't overdo the nutrition element. I'm using chicken manure pellets, but you could use any general purpose organic fertiliser. And if you'd like to learn more about that, check out our video on that topic. I will pop a link to it down below. It's really, really important not to cram the plants in. They need at least 2 foot or 60 centimetres and ideally 3 foot or 90 centimetres between plants. And there are a couple of reasons for this. Firstly, you want the air to flow around the plants so there's less chance of diseases like powdery mildew. And also it reduces the risk of a tangle of leaves, so the flowers are easier to locate by your pollinating insects, and of course the fruits are easier to pick. So I'm just planting them straight in and firming them in. Some people like to plant on a bit of a mound, but I never really bother with that and just plant them at soil level. And then, to help with watering, what I'm doing is parallel to the zucchini, I'm sinking in a pot like this, and the idea is that I'll just simply water into that. The advantage of that is that the water doesn't run off and it catches the water, holds onto it so it can deliver it right down where those thirsty roots are. Now, if you haven't had time to acclimatise your zucchini to the outdoor temperatures by leaving them out for progressively longer over, say, a week to 10 days, what you can do is just cover the plants with some sort of row cover like horticultural fleece, and that will help them make the transition from the cosseted indoor environment to this slightly harsher outdoor environment. And I think they'll do just fine. So you've got your plants in the ground and they're looking just great, really vibrant and with lots of fresh new growth. And then the first flowers appear. It won't be long before you're picking, but just a minute. Zucchini plants often produce male flowers exclusively to start with. Why do they do that? No one really knows for sure, but male flowers take less energy to produce, so I expect they're just getting themselves into gear and then they produce the female flowers a little bit later on once the plant has bulked out a bit. But rest assured, you will get both male and female flowers eventually. Often you'll see with young fruits that they start to rot at one end, and that's a clear sign that the female flower hasn't been properly pollinated, so the fruit is usually aborted and drops off. Now in time, of course, those pollinators will do the job that you're after, and they do a magnificent job of it. But if you want to help plants along, especially at the start of the season or during cool and rainy weather, then you can hand pollinate your zucchini. It's a very simple process, very easy to do, and you can use the same technique on any member of the squash family, so pumpkins, melons too, for example. We've done a video on just this and I will pop a link to it down below. Now, of course, keeping your plants properly hydrated with regular watering will also give them the resources they need to pump out those flowers and fruits. I'll also be applying a mulch around my plants of wood chips in about 2 weeks once the plants have settled in, and that'll help to lock in moisture. Mulching is great in my climate, but if you're in a hot climate, it's absolutely essential, I'd say. Pests aren't much of a problem where I garden, but North American gardeners don't have it so easy, and I do sympathise. You've got squash bugs, which can render leaves ragged and pretty much destroy plants, and then you've got squash vine borers, which really hit the plant where it hurts by boring right into the base of the stem. Check plants regularly, at least twice weekly, throughout the summer for squash bug eggs. You can just scrape them off, or if it's a small infestation, cut the egg-carrying leaf off and then just compost it. Vine borers are trickier customers to deal with because they get right inside the stem to feed on the spongy material within. Now you can tell they're in there because they give themselves away by the beige frass, that's their poo, that comes out from the hole where they gained entry at the base of the stem. Not nice stuff. You can put them off by wrapping the base of the stem with aluminium or aluminum foil, and that protects the base of the stem. And if they do gain entry, you can always try cutting them out very carefully with a very, very sharp knife. Another thing you can try is to bury part of the stem further along. So if the damage is at the base and the stem's going here and you put some soil over the top, you'll encourage new fresh roots, and that will effectively bypass the damage. Now, an issue universal to all gardeners is powdery mildew. Powdery mildew is just a fungal disease that turns the leaves kind of powdery and white as it spreads. You can avoid this by making sure there's plenty of airflow. That means keeping plants properly spaced and, of course, keeping plants well watered. If leaves do get infected, clip off leaves earlier on. You might have a chance of containing it. You can also spray plants with milk, cow's milk, just to help control it as well. That's a neat little tip. And finally, I find that plants do get overwhelmed towards the end of summer and into autumn as powdery mildew takes over. It seems just to be part of the aging process. Just let it run its course and harvest what you can and then dig the plants up once they're done. Another little trick to avoid powdery mildew, or at least reduce the chances of it, is to prune your zucchini plants. Now, you should by any means be removing the yellowing and dead or badly damaged leaves anyhow, but you can take things a step further. Remove any leaves that are overlapping and crossing because that reduces airflow. Just take them out right where they emerge from the stem. In fact, you can remove up to 1/3 of the plant's leaves at any one time. And this is a great strategy for helping to improve airflow. It will also encourage fresh, disease-free, vigorous growth to replace the older foliage. And my final tip is, yes, you've guessed it, to keep on picking. Ideally, you want to be picking your zucchini fruits with the flower still attached. At this point, the fruits are nice and firm and have an almost nutty taste. They've got a delicious texture that you will pay a premium for in the grocery store. So this is a real joy to be able to harvest them at this size as gardeners. You certainly don't want to get your zucchinis growing to kind of marrow size because that will signal to the plant to stop flowering and stop producing fruits, and we do not want that. I like to pick them at about 6 inches or 15 centimetres long. That's a real optimum size for those fruits. If you're heading away for any period of time, then do press a neighbour or friend into service to pick the zucchini for you, and for that matter, beans too, even if they don't want to eat them, because that way they will keep on producing. Remember, if you keep on picking, the plants will keep on producing. I find that 4 or 5 plants is about right for our family of 3. That way there is always definitely something to pick. And also I think the plants produce better when they're in good company because there'll be more flowers, which means more chance of cross-pollination and more chance of fruits. Personally, I can't ever imagine getting tired of zucchini, especially when you're growing more than one variety, and I'm growing 2 this year. But what about you? How do you keep your zucchini game fresh? And what varieties are your preferred ones to grow? Let me know down in the comments. Now, in our next episode, I'm excited to be sharing with you 10 secret gardening hacks that I think will transform the way you garden. You really won't want to miss it. And if you're prone to forgetfulness, like I am, well, the best way to avoid that is to make sure you have subscribed and turned on notifications. And that way we can let you know once the video's up and ready to watch. Cheers for watching, happy gardening, and I will catch you next time.